میلیون 3 میلیون اسرائیلی مسلمان ها رو نابود میکنه، زن و بچه و پیر و جوان و بیمارستان و مسجد و همه جا رو بمباران میکنه، نشستیم نگاه میکنیم و او جرأت میکنه این کار میکنه برای اینکه ما با هم نیستیم.
He's right. I think Israel managed to these recent days to reach a new ethical law through committing another war crime. This simultaneous and indiscriminate targeting of civilians, and it doesn't matter whether they're members of an armed group or civilians, amounts to a war crime according to the United Nations, because they did not have prior knowledge of the location of who was using these devices and of the surrounding of the devices, and yet they detonated 5,000 devices in Lebanon, which killed children, civilians, and people not associated with Hezbollah. Obviously, this is a very sophisticated intelligence operation, and this is typical pattern, behavioral pattern of Israeli warfare tactics. They've done it in the past. They've done similar war crimes in the past, and here they are doing it again and putting the region at the brink of an all-out war, which we have been trying to avoid for a year now. Unfortunately, we're faced with the Israeli Prime Minister who wants to put his country at a continual state of war to put off the risk of the fall of his coalition and facing corruption charges at court. So the whole region is hostage to Mr. Netanyahu's political fate. Actually, we have to reverse this trend and de-escalate. The mediators, mainly the Americans, were heavily mobilized, and we were all looking forward for these negotiations on a ceasefire in Gaza in order for immediately and simultaneously start on a de-escalation scheme on the southern borders of Lebanon. And the signs were promising in that regard, but unfortunately the Israeli government is doing its utmost to undermine the ceasefire negotiations in Gaza through expanding the war and putting the whole region on the brink of an all-out war, which will spare no one. Everyone will be hurt in such a war. Remain focused on the ceasefire negotiations in Gaza and in parallel and simultaneously work on a de-escalation scheme in Lebanon. The Lebanese government does not want war. We have been for a year now heavily mobilized to try to avoid what we're seeing today, but it needs cooperation from the other side. And as I said, we don't see the Israeli government ready for such de-escalation. It's rather the opposite. They are doing their utmost to involve new stakeholders in this conflict, and that's pretty worrying.
مع سيد الشهداء ونقول
This had to be consulted by the hospital, where the patient had to be consulted. Oh, okay, you want to take pictures of that? It's a massacre. It's a crime, isn't it? Or it had different description. The one who did it is a criminal. Is more than criminal. Is a monster.
I mean, this is an act of aggression against non-combatants, community people. Even if some of them are combatants, but this is a non-discriminatory act of attack. And I think that, the use of this non-discriminatory force or attacks, which clearly will affect civilians, is something, in my mind, is something against international humanitarian law.
هناك ضغوطات على الكادر الطبي بحجم الأعداد الكبيرة التي واجهتها طوارئ المستشفيات كافة على الأراضي اللبنانية. نحن فقط في طوارئ مستشفى الشهيد محمود الهمشري تعاملنا مع ما يقارب 80 إصابة معظمها خطرة.
مع سيد الشهداء ونقول
هذا ولو